Okay, so tomorrow, Thursday morning, the City of Providence, Providence Police Department, Providence School Department, and all Providence city agencies are preparing for what appears to be a strike action by the Teamsters in a labor dispute with First Student. This will impact transportation of up to 9,000 students in the school district, covering 23 elementary schools and 7 middle schools. The Providence Police Department are fully prepared to have a uniformed officer covering each of those 30 schools, both for the morning commute and both for the afternoon dismissal of the students. As well, the police department is prepared to have all of the pedestrian routes, the major thoroughfares covered, where we anticipate there may be groups of students traveling to and from school to their residences or their after-school activities. That being the case, the safety of our students and our community is paramount to everything we do, and that will be the focus tomorrow by the Providence Police Department, the Providence School Department, and all city agencies. The communication to this point, as always, is constant between the police department, in this case the school department, and tomorrow as well we have a plan in place to have constant communication, a central repository of information going back and forth with any issues that may arise. As you know, this will be different. This will be challenging for both departments in the morning, but we're fully confident, we're prepared, but we urge people, as the school department already has, for families, students to be patient. Where we had a large volume of buses transporting 9,000 students, we now will have a significant increase in motor vehicles and pedestrians coming to and from the school. Therein lies the challenge, and that's what we're trying to prepare for. However, it will be fluid as the day goes on, so we feel communication is the key as the day goes on. But we're prepared, and we'll be at it bright and early in the morning, and I know the school department has done yeoman's work behind the scenes in preparing for this protest event tomorrow. As well, we'll have the actual location of Rycom Way, where the First Student buses operate from. We'll have coverage by the Providence Police Department at the strike location. We're not quite sure what the numbers will be there, but we anticipate maybe between 100 and 200 strikers will be there, and we will have a uniformed Providence police presence at that location as well. So tomorrow will be a busy day for the city and the police department. Superintendent Chris Ma is always a good partner, and he's done a lot preparing for this.
You want me to move these over?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Commissioner. As the Chief indicated, we've been in tight communication with public safety officials. We feel confident that we will have measures in place at our schools and in our neighborhoods to keep our kids as safe as possible. What families can do in order to also contribute to safety, because this will be a community effort, is to make sure you have a good plan for getting your child to and from school. We have sent out a number of notices to families at different levels on different times within the last week and a half, giving them directions on what information we need at the school to ensure that their child remains safe. At the elementary school level, we need to make sure that, and at the middle school level, that students and their parents, anyone that comes to pick up a student has a photo identification. We've also asked all parents to update their contact information. This is critical at a time like this, and oftentimes people change cell phone numbers and don't update, so this is the time to make sure that we have that information. At middle schools, we are allowing, if parents sign a waiver, students will be able to walk, and that waiver was sent home yesterday and last week. We've sent it home on multiple occasions. There's also a phone number that we'd like the media to promote that is a message where ongoing information will be posted. The number is 401-919-5271. That's 401-919-5271. we will be providing information as it becomes available to parents. At the end of the day, as the chief said, we'll be in constant communication tomorrow on this issue, and we'll actually set up a mutual headquarters to work together. And then we'll do a reassessment at the end of the day based on the information that we get from schools in terms of anything that we need to do differently. I really want to emphasize that this is something that is a hardship for many of our families. We understand that. We wish there were other alternatives. There are not. We have looked for a district our size, for over, as the chief said, for over 9,000 students. And what we promise is to work with you as families to try to, whatever situations come up, to try to address them in the best way possible. Just to reinforce, we understand students are going to be tardy. We understand that older students might need to leave early to pick up younger students, and they may need early dismissal. And we also understand that students may need to miss school. And if they do need to miss school during the strike, we are committed to making sure that they are not penalized academically, and we will make up those services, and they'll get an opportunity to make up that work afterwards without any negative effect on their academic record.
Yeah, I think the commission.
Okay, all right.
So in conjunction with the police department, the fire department will also deploy some resources at particular schools. So we have companies, both engines and ladders, that will have a presence. So if some of our students need direction, need guidance, that there'll be an official from the fire department working hand in hand with the police department. So as the colonel and the superintendent, a plan is in place. We're confident that we'll do everything possible to keep our students and children safe during this period of time. The mayor would have been here. We waited, but he is with the Teamsters and also First Student and having discussions. So he regrets not being here, but he's with them and they continue to talk, which is a good sign. But we will be ready with our plan regardless of whether it's needed or not, and I'm not indicating one way or another. We need to be ready so when bus drivers strike, our children are cared for, feel safe, and have officials helping them when there's some confusion. That's all I have. If you have any questions, we'll open it up. Otherwise, we'll end.
Can you go into specifics about what your police officers are going to be doing? Are they going to be driving around checking the bus stops to make sure kids aren't standing out waiting for a bus? What will they do if they find kids wandering around lost or not in the right place?
Sure, certainly, Steph. So first off, we'll have a uniform officer at every school, 23 elementary and the 7 middle schools. But as well, we will have direction for the entire uniform division patrol bureau, as well as the plainclothes investigative. We have a very large workforce, and the entire department will be aware that tomorrow is going to be a different day. So where we see apparent students who are left abandoned at a bus stop or who are appeared to be trying to get to a certain school or location, we will be prepared in the event they need a ride to school if they're stranded. We certainly will have to monitor that fluid situation as to what those numbers are. So pragmatically, what we'll be doing is just that. We'll be trying to engage with motor vehicle tie-ups going to the schools, so traffic safety, number one, and as far as pedestrians, trying to get the students as quickly as we can to their destination. So there may be an occasion where a student would be left behind at a bus stop, and if a uniformed or unmarked police car sees that student, we will assist him in getting to the school destination.
Do you have extra officers working tomorrow more than you would on a typical
We do.
Thursday? Okay.
We do. So we wanted to mandate one. We felt it was important to have every single school covered with a Providence police officer. Some, it's a mix and match. Some are on-duty personnel that are already assigned. They'll be covering schools, but as well, we do have some overtime monitoring this as well.
So let me be clear that the purpose for the police department is not to pick up children at bus stops. We're asking the parents and the guardians of those students to provide alternative transportation. But if someone, through the confusion, is wandering anywhere, that will be our focus. So the safety of that student is most important, and we'll work with the school department, whether it's a release or a prior to school, making sure that student gets to school.
And that's a good point, because there's no way if that volume reaches a high level that we would be able to bear that burden of transporting. It's just in the event of safety of a child or who appears to be stranded at a particular stop.
And Superintendent Moore, as we go on the air in an hour, we still don't know if the negotiations are going to be successful or not. How confident are you that most, if not all, parents are aware that there is possibly a strike tomorrow and to plan for the worst case scenario?
Well, we've certainly put out in every possible medium we can imagine. We've certainly sent out notices. We've sent them home by paper. We've emailed. We've made phone calls. We put it out through social media. And tonight, every one of our schools will be making phone calls home once we know the outcome of today's meeting, one way or another. There are also a number of non-Providence schools that are affected by this. We've been in communication with those schools so that they can communicate individually with the students that they serve as well. There are public charters, there are privates, and there are statewide schools. And when I was on the radio this morning, one of the things I asked is, if you haven't heard something from your school, you should call and find out what's going on, because we know that our students in Providence Public Schools, we're confident that we've reached out to their families, but there are other students as well that attend other schools that might use these buses.
So these are not robocalls. Someone from the school is calling every single home?
No, we're putting out school-by-school calls with some specific details.
That's it, guys. Thank you.
Oh, I will try.
Wait. There's a lot of questions for Superintendent Mark.
Well, the first question is that you're going to reach all the Latino stations, because the majority of the students are Latino.
Estaba en el poder esta mañana.
But it's more radio stations. You're going to go to the other
Yeah,
stations?
we're reaching out to all the media that we can.
Chief, does your plan, you're saying you're putting extra officers on the street, that can be expensive. Does it account for the fact that this stoppage, should it occur, could go on for a while?
Again, it's a fluid situation with the labor dispute, and we're going to cover Thursday and Friday, and then monitor and assess what we'll be doing for next week. But we anticipate that we will cover these schools for the duration of this dispute.
And Superintendent, can you explain again why, I understand the city tried to find other transportation. Can you explain again, because parents are still asking us why the city is unable to find another way to provide transportation, and especially for students who are special education or have disabilities who have in their IEP that they're supposed to get transportation. Why not? You can't find enough drivers or buses that might be able to help those students?
There are not 150. We use over 150 buses. There's not another fleet out there like that. In terms of students with disabilities, I know it's been on some of the other stations. Parents with students with disabilities have said there's not one place out there that can serve my child. So we know that there are 1,000 students, up to 1,000 students in Providence who have transportation as part of their IEP. So we'll be reimbursing our families through compensatory services for any expenses that they have. Like I said, it's a terrible situation to be in. It's not one that I think families want to be in, and it's not a situation that we would like to be in, but we exhausted every option. We talked to RIPTA, people have said, hey, you should call Johnson & Wales, you should call RIPTA, you should call all these other places. The other issue that's a possibility is if we did have 150 buses lying around that we didn't, that there'd be picketing at those buses as well. So the issue is we need these two parties to come together. We understand there's conversations happening right now, and because having our children in the middle of this is not something that anybody wants to see.
Okay, is your understanding that the reimbursement to those families fulfills the legal obligation to provide transportation?
It would depend on the IEP stuff, so we would look at every case on an individual basis, because there's other compensatory services that may also be applicable.
So it sounds like we're not going to know, in
This is it,
the next few hours whether or not this strike is actually happening. How late will you be calling families tonight to let them know whether or not their kids are going to have a bus?
Once we hear from the mayor, we'll be getting on a call and having a conversation about what the communication will be. But it will not only be on social media and phone calls, we'll also be calling the broadcasting network so that it'll be on the nightly news tonight and when parents wake up in the morning. I mean, parents wake up in the morning, sometimes, unfortunately, you have to make a last-minute call about a snow day at 6 in the morning, but it'll be, we'll have it up well before then.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.